Time's up. Taxes due. Is there a better way to pay your fair share? In depth tonight, tax rage. Why is the IRS such a mess? And the IRS secret weapon, the snitch. Who's watching you? Tornado country. President Clinton offers hope and financial help. And on the anniversary of the Titanic, iceberg hunters, the special team searching the sea.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. The good news is that the economy is so strong the federal government is having a banner year, and the long curse of the deficit is being wiped out. The bad news is that to do that, you have to pay taxes through a system that seems to be deliberately designed to be complicated, punitive, contradictory, and just plain maddening. And today is when all of that comes together, April 15th, a day when many Americans are proud they can pay as much as they're required, but for many others, for most in fact, a dark, dark day. Here's NBC's Jim Avila.
The check is in the mail, 100 million of them.
All right, give them up.
The average American's biggest bill of the year comes due at midnight tonight. 48 million taxpayers wait until the last minute to pay it.
I need to send these by certified mail, please.
It's the biggest tax bill ever, more than $1.5 trillion, more than $6,000 for every man, woman, and child in the country.
Okay, today's the 15th. Wow.
In Chicago, Lily Stelmokis rushed to her accountant on her lunch hour today, 12 hours before the deadline.
I'm stressed because I want to get this over with and get back to work and, be done with the IRS. I'm not going to give them the money until I have to.
And many never do. Experts estimate the IRS is cheated out of $100 billion a year by 10 million taxpayers who never file. Larry Roby is in a fight with the IRS over $60,000 in back taxes the government says he owes. It may cost him his Indianapolis helicopter business, which the IRS says is a hobby and not deductible.
I feel that they are just asking too much money.
In New York City, the IRS arrested a tax preparer on charges she not only cheated on tax returns, she bragged about her knowledge of illegal tricks.
She was a teacher of how to cheat the system.
Most Americans pay their taxes, working a record 129 days, theoretically until May 10th, just to pay federal, state, and local taxes. Or according to the conservative research group Tax Foundation,
Americans will spend 2 hours and 50 minutes out of each 8-hour day to pay their total tax bill.
But as Mrs. Norgard's second-grade class in Palo Alto, California learned today as they filled out mock tax returns, there is a reason for all this.
Help the government do stuff like build roads and stuff.
And cheer up. 89 million Americans get refunds. Those checks should be in the mail in 45 days. Jim Avila, NBC News, Chicago.
Once you finally do drop that tax return into the mail, your job is done, but the IRS's work is just beginning. In fact, each tax return goes on a multiple-step journey through the system. First, those millions of returns are opened, then sorted by type, payment or refund. The payments are deposited in the mother of all bank accounts, the U.S. Treasury. Next, returns are grouped into batches of 100, then checked for mistakes. The error is reviewed by a tax examiner. The final data are transferred to a giant computer center in West Virginia. Finally, people getting refunds have their data sent to regional offices. Refund checks are sent out or direct deposits are made. And after 6 weeks, all returns are sent to a federal records center to be stored away. Also in Washington tonight on the Ken Starr front, the role of the Secret Service has flared up again. Starr wants Secret Service agents to testify about President Clinton's dealings with Monica Lewinsky. The Secret Service and the White House are not happy. More now from NBC's Lisa Myers.
Today, as elite Secret Service bodyguards protected the president, Ken Starr vigorously defended his effort to force agents to testify about Mr. Clinton's dealings with Monica Lewinsky.
The Secret Service has traditionally cooperated in law enforcement activities. Secret Service agents have testified in court.
That's true, but never before have agents been forced to testify about the president's conduct. Sources tell NBC News that Starr believes at least a dozen Secret Service officers may have information directly relevant to his investigation. But so far, the Secret Service has blocked all direct questions, claiming a new legal shield called protective function privilege, that questioning agents about what they see and hear would make it tougher to protect the president. A former agent says guarding presidential secrets is critical.
If the president can't count on that, then he's going to ask the agents to move away from him, to get further away.
But Starr argues that some of those he wants to question are uniformed officers who only guard hallways. And he also wants to pursue reports that an agent witnessed a sexual encounter between Lewinsky and the president and told others about it. Sources close to the Secret Service tell NBC News that some high-level Secret Service officials have been told of such an incident. An agency spokesman says he is not aware of that. Ultimately, Starr is looking for evidence that the president lied under oath in denying he had a sexual relationship with Lewinsky.
Therefore, if Secret Service agents observed such a relationship, that's critical direct evidence of a crime.
Privately, even some Justice Department lawyers believe agents ultimately will be forced to testify. As for Starr, sources say he now considers breaking the Secret Service circle of silence a top priority. Lisa Myers, NBC News, Washington.
Later here on NBC Nightly News, your taxes in depth, the IRS, public enemy number one. Why can't it be fixed? Also tonight, living longer, living better. Why a few extra pounds might not be so bad when you reach your older years.
When you get older, there are actually some good effects of being overweight.
A new study concludes older Americans shouldn't worry about those few extra pounds. Up next, a time of healing. President Clinton at the scene of those Alabama tornadoes.
You never met my big Italian family, but they love you already. So tonight, they'll share with you a fresh salad this big. Then pass around the baby pictures. They'll share baskets of soft garlic breadsticks. Then pass around the baby. What they have, you can have. And that's how the Olive Garden feels. They call it Hospitaliana, which means everything of ours is yours. That's my cousin. She wants to share your dessert. The Olive Garden. When you're here, you're family.
They sprayed us good, huh?
Yeah, good.
But we'll be okay, huh? I mean, we've been sprayed before, huh, Hank? I can't feel my roots, Hank. I can't feel my roots, Hank. Hank!
Roundup, no mercy, no pity, no weeds.
Hey, Parquet, what's the word?
Better.
Better? Aren't you supposed to say butter?
Better.
Butter.
Better.
Look at how you melt. Just like butter. Mmm, you really do taste better.
Butter.
New Parquet. Now the flavor says
butter.
Even better.
Why does Tums control acid faster than Pepsid AC? Because they work on your stomach acid in totally different ways. Tums Calcium naturally, rapidly neutralizes acid so it works fast. Pepsid AC's famotidine has to travel through your bloodstream, so it takes at least 40 minutes to block natural acid production. So why does Tums work on acid faster and cost less, and Pepsid AC works slower and costs more?
Good question.
President Clinton is heading to Chile tonight for the Summit of the Americas. Earlier today, he was in Alabama meeting with some survivors of last week's killer tornadoes there. Mr. Clinton visited Pratt City, that's a largely black community hit hard by the tornadoes. He shook hundreds of hands, promised more federal aid, and urged residents to focus now on the future. The president's visit may have given a boost to the victims of the storm, but what happens when he leaves? What happens to the children who survived these tornadoes? How will they get past the devastation? NBC's Kerry Sanders has some answers tonight.
Rain is no longer rain to the children at Minor Junior High School. It's another threat.
I didn't know if another tornado was going to come or not.
15-year-old Jonathan David Farris is not alone in his fears. Dozens of children sit in the school library, meeting with counselors one-on-one.
I was scared. I was scared when it hit.
And then the roof just came off.
11-year-old Andrea Washington lost her home. With her mother, stepfather, and 2 stepbrothers, they survived the tornado under a mattress.
So how did you feel when all this was happening?
I was scared.
You were scared?
But then, you couldn't see nothing that night because it was 8, 7 o'clock, and it get dark about that time.
Andrea's counselor says the 4th grader, like her classmates, tries to block out the feelings.
She says that, well, we just have to do what we have to do.
But Those emotions come flooding back easily. In class, someone threw a piece of paper at Jerry Simpson. He exploded and then began to cry. He and his sister are homeless. Their great-grandmother was killed.
Everything that happens is a big deal. What's normally not a big deal is a big deal.
For some, a hug helps. For others, a stuffed doll. Counselors want the children to know what they did not lose, their security. Psychologists say it's important to get children back into a setting they know. But in less than a month, school lets out for the summer, and the emotional scars will still be there. Remember young Andrea Washington? After a brave day, she had a flashback. Her mother and sister took her out of school early. Counselors suggested she confront her fears. A trip to what was once home. It is a difficult first step.
We'll be okay.
Kerry Sanders, NBC News, Minor, Alabama.
Up next, more tonight on your taxes, fear and loathing in the IRS. Why doesn't that agency change its ways? But first from CNBC, another big day on Wall Street. The Dow was up more than 52 points today. Another record. The NASDAQ also was up to its own record high.
To most people, gardening's a hobby, but to the professional grower, it's a serious business.
You can't be in this business and not love flowers. You know, we grow over 500 million flowers a year. We want big flowers. Color is what it's all about, and that's why we use Miracle-Gro. It's got the right balance, nutrition. You know, gardeners are always afraid that they're going to take this plant home and kill it. You know, growing plants is really easy. A dose of Miracle-Gro every so often, and I guarantee it, you're going to have nothing but great results.
Where will you be 4 hours from now? Reaching out or in? What will you be out doing when your pain reliever stops working and your arthritis pain comes back? Only Aleve can stop your arthritis pain all day long with just 2 pills. No other pain reliever can do that. So with Aleve, no matter where you happen to be, you can be pain-free all day long. Aleve. Real relief is all-day relief.
I've got all my receipts right here, and my pay stubs, of course. I know how these things can go. I mean, I've heard how these things can go. I've never actually been audited before, if that's what you're thinking. And if this is about the home office deduction, I can show you a blueprint of my home.
Did you make money last year, Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Did you send us most of it?
Yes.
Thank you. Next.
See, life doesn't have to be so complicated. A simple reminder from Kellogg's Corn Flakes. Simple is good.
Dateline Friday. Some say they take advantage.
Welfare was my life.
Some say they're wasting our money.
The welfare system should be for people that truly need it.
Now, one state is leading the way in what's seen as a bold new plan to abolish welfare. Is it fair? Can it work? Maria Shriver reports. A must-see Dateline, NBC Friday.
NBC News in Depth tonight. The IRS is one of the most unpopular organizations in America. Besides all of the horror stories that we've all heard about people caught in endless disputes with unreasonable IRS bureaucrats, there's also the sheer complexity of those tax forms. No wonder the IRS is so unpopular. Which brings us to NBC's Bob Faw and the nightly question: why can't they fix the IRS?
4 a.m. today, long before the rooster even thought about crowing. IRS agent Ruth Hodesy was bulking up.
What's that little? Pancakes, French toast, coffee, coffee, coffee.
Preparing in Buffalo, New York for a deluge of phone calls. $50. From confused, frustrated, and angry taxpayers.
I understand. I understand.
But millions of American taxpayers cannot understand why the IRS seems so harsh and punishing. 150 penalties used now, compared to just 14 in 1995. $7.5 billion in penalties collected in 1996, compared to just $1.6 billion in 1980.
Today is a very black-letter day for all Americans.
Nor can many understand why the agency appears to be so arbitrary and unfair.
We just did this research showing that if you're a taxpayer in Los Angeles earning over $100,000, you're 6 times more likely to be audited than if you live in New Jersey. How come?
And how come when the IRS tries to simplify, it can't? Its new Schedule D for capital gains and losses is so confusing, even the IRS concedes it might have to send back 1 million completed forms because so many people couldn't figure this one out.
Shucks.
And as for that so-called toll-free helpline now open extra hours, whoops. Today, the IRS released a poll showing most people who have dealt with the agency consider it fair and courteous, but critics scoff and argue the agency will never improve until its culture changes.
There's this cultural attitude in the IRS that it's their mission to bring in as much money as possible, and you only do that by presuming that everyone out there is hiding some money from you.
Until that mindset is different, it will not matter whether frazzled taxpayers get help from Playboy bunnies or from playful pups, or how many calls Ruth Hodesy manages to field at her battle station.
You might see stress in my lined faces, but otherwise it's a wonderful season. We're having a wonderful tax filing season.
Right. Bob Fall, NBC News, Washington.
Part of the animosity that people feel toward the IRS has to do with the fear of incurring its wrath. The warnings about penalties for cheating are right there at the bottom of your tax form. But if that's not enough to keep you honest, here's another incentive. A little-known IRS program to encourage people to inform on other taxpayers. Is that really a good idea? We continue in depth tonight. Here's NBC's Pete Williams.
For Scott Miller of Virginia Beach, Virginia, a terrifying memory. IRS agents acting on an informant tip burst into his house, finding him in the shower.
And I jerked back the shower curtain to be staring down at a 9mm.
No tax charges were ever filed against him, and now he's suing the IRS for $20 million. So are the co-owners of the restaurant where he worked, accusing tax agents of taking the word of a disgruntled ex-restaurant employee who was their informant. Most law enforcement agencies use informants, but the IRS goes further, offering to give them up to 15% of what it collects from tax cheats. They even get their own application, Form 211, to apply for reward money. And there's a toll-free number.
You have reached the Internal Revenue Service Informant Hotline. This line is to report tax fraud only.
But a taxpayer rights group says it's an invitation for trouble, offering money in hopes taxpayers will rat on their employers or ex-spouses.
People have lied and not told the truth and in hopes of getting a reward. And ultimately, the people that they have turned in have paid very high cost indeed.
Even so, the IRS calls the program a big success, helping to recover more than $2 billion in unpaid taxes at a cost of just $35 million in rewards. A former IRS commissioner considers it a valuable tool when used sparingly.
The IRS, with its limited resources, simply can't unearth a very, very clever way of hiding income when there's no paper trail on the income.
One thing potential informants need to keep in mind, the IRS considers any rewards it pays to be taxable income. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
Coming up tonight, living longer, living better. Why a few extra pounds might be the healthy choice for older Americans. Later, the Titanic, 86 years after the sinking of the great ship, iceberg hunters on patrol.
Today is March 23rd, or August 12th, or December 4th. It does not matter what today is. While others dwell on the events of one today, our mutual funds stick to long-term strategies that seek performance through discipline. Strategies that understand one today does not a retirement make. We do not live for the day. We are in it for much longer than that. AIM. Invest with discipline.
Great meal. Uh-oh, gas pressure. What now? What else? Gas X, with the most powerful medicine for fast relief. Nothing works faster.
Hey, want to go for ice cream?
Gas X, the power to fight gas fast.
Hey.
Hey.
You know, I'm curious, when you power into a tight corner, does your beamer track G-loads, braking history, and regardless of throttle position, automatically downshift for more control?
I don't think so.
Maybe you should check your manual.
The all-new Seville STS with the North Star system. Racing-inspired shift control, the convenience of an automatic. It's not just new, it's what's next.
Braking history. It's not in there.
The all-new Seville STS. It's what's next.
that the party of the first part did not intend for the party of the second.
I should have used Preparation H.
If you had, you wouldn't be suffering now. Preparation H helps stop itch and further irritation with a soothing layer of protection.
I should have used Preparation H.
Stops itch, stops irritation.
It was 1 a.m. I'm hurting, I can't sleep, and I'm worried about taking something. Is it okay? What am I going to feel like in the morning? Finally, I take Tylenol PM. It stops my pain, it helps me sleep, and next morning, I am up with the sun and I feel great. Poor old Ralph can't even keep up. And I'm thinking, it's going to be a beautiful day.
Rest easy. It's Tylenol PM.
Hotspots making news tonight. That train carrying 12,000 gallons of napalm still can't find a permanent home. It headed west from California over the weekend, and after passing through several states, it's due in Kansas City tonight. Navy officials now say they will store the napalm in an unidentified military facility temporarily. Los Angeles, good news on the condition of Shosho. Last night we told you about the Chinese boy in desperate need of a heart operation and the generous people who helped bring him to doctors at UCLA. Now those doctors say they are delighted and surprised at how well the 3-year-old is doing after the surgery to correct a heart defect that could have killed him. Now to our look at living longer, living better. The conventional wisdom is that thinner is healthier. But a new study finds that's not necessarily the case as we get older. In fact, those few extra pounds could help you live longer. Here's NBC's Robert Bazell.
Outside a supermarket in Miami today, Jane Bonnell says she'd love to stock up on more fattening foods, but she worries about her weight.
Yeah, I'd love to eat donuts, a glass of milk, but it's not good for you.
But the latest study concludes older people like Jane shouldn't worry about weight. In fact, having a few extra pounds could be good for them. But wait a minute, haven't we heard again and again that being fat is bad for you?
Most of the studies that have been done have been on middle-aged and younger people. There's really been very little data available for older adults.
The study followed 4,300 healthy older adults for 5 years. The results were surprising. For older women, those who are heavier live longer. For older men, weight makes no difference. Those who are overweight live as long as those who are not.
When you get older, there are actually some good effects of being overweight. People who are overweight they have what's called a nutritional reserve. So if they get terribly sick, they're less likely to die.
No one is telling older Americans to make an effort to overeat and tip the scales. But there's no question that being overweight is more of a danger in youth and middle age than it is when you're older.
If you don't have cardiovascular disease, then probably the best thing you can do is just maintain your weight, not try to lose it.
Doctors are discovering more and more that the standard health advice for the young may not be what's right for older people. So maybe Jane Bonnell can treat herself to donuts after all. Robert Bazell, NBC News, New York.
When we come back, a legacy of the Titanic searching the waters of the Atlantic for another deadly iceberg.
We have a deal. Today, the best opportunities are global, and so are we.
We see a huge market development.
The Equitable, a strong and trusted partner in the U.S.
This combination means new growth for both partners.
AXA, a global powerhouse in 50 countries with more than $500 billion under management.
Here, have a look at the future.
AXA and Equitable, global reach from a trusted friend. Equitable is a member of the Global AXA Group.
The comfortably priced Comfort Collection. Custom upholstery that's at home, even if your house is a zoo. From Ethan Allen, where everyone's at home, the spring sale is on now.
I got a letter back from Quaker.
You wrote to Quaker.
Told them Quaker toasted oatmeal ought to be called Quaker tasty oatmeal.
It's oatmeal, it's toasted. To me, that says tasty.
Well, then they should call it that.
Quaker toasted oatmeal. Crisp oatmeal flakes with honey-sweetened oat clusters.
Well, they thanked me for my interest, but said product will remain Quaker toasted oatmeal.
What a shock.
Quaker Tasty, toasted oatmeal. Your other oatmeal.
And now, Quaker Honey Nut Toasted Oatmeal has 20% more almonds.
Ooh, yum.
No matter what you need, from a fast fix for the flat on your F-150 to a sleek new shine on your Stingray, Pep Boys has it. And now get Gunk Engine Bright at a super low price of just 99 cents. Great stuff for your engine. Gunk for only 99 cents. Pep Boys, everything but gas.
When it's time to clean your outside windows, does the job seem this big? Next time, try new Windex Outdoor. Just aim, spray, and rinse. Windex Outdoor's concentrated formula and sheeting action dissolve tough outdoor grime to get windows clean. No buckets, no ladders, no aggravation. Bring a big job down to size with new Windex Outdoor. A beautiful shine, a lot less time.
It looks like after-school daycare, but when the doctor who runs it billed taxpayers, he called it therapy for $6 million a year. The Fleecing of America. NBC Nightly News tomorrow.
For breaking news coverage, the new leader is MSNBC. It's NBC News on cable and the internet. MSNBC.
86 years ago tonight, the Titanic went down with 1,500 on board, but in so many ways it sails on. The most famous ship since the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. It's a whole industry these days. Films, books, music, heartthrobs, and tonight, icebergs. Here's NBC's Robert Hager.
86 years after the Titanic sank, modern-day iceberg hunters from the U.S. Coast Guard's International Ice Patrol on a mission to remember. 1,800 miles out over the Atlantic, toward the spot where the ship went down. On board, simple wreaths, blue and white carnations. Lieutenant Commander Bill Thompson.
Time to look back on actually what happened and to think about the reasons why we're here and how serious this job is tracking icebergs.
Iceberg, right ahead! A peril made all the more vivid this year by the film Titanic. Icebergs, sometimes the size of 3 football fields. They break off ancient glaciers to the north and float south to the sea lanes, feared by mariners even today. This ice patrol was founded the very year after the Titanic sank, and ever since has tracked and warned shippers of these floating hazards. A reason why, since the Titanic, only one big ship has sunk after hitting an iceberg in the North Atlantic, and that nearly 40 years ago. Today, at Titanic memorials here in Washington and around the world, the victims of 86 years ago were honored. In New York, relatives of those aboard and others paid tribute. Same at the faraway British port of Southampton. And out over the Atlantic this weekend, as members of the Ice Patrol near the scene, wreaths at the ready, a short prayer over the plane's intercom. The plane drops to 500 feet, and the wreaths cast into the wind, riding the wake and disappearing to the waves below. There are no icebergs at the scene this year after the warm winter. Instead, as Commander Thompson and his crew turn back, below there's only a single freighter, the choppy Atlantic, and 2.5 miles down, what remains today of the Titanic and its 1,500 victims. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
Tomorrow night on Nightly News, millions of your tax dollars to pay for daycare. The doctor running this program calls it therapy, but it may be just another fleecing of America. That's Nightly News for this Wednesday. I'm Tom Brokaw, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
NBC Nightly News is America's most watched evening news program.
The First Lady broke her silence on Today, and the Vice President, too, and George W. Bush only on Today. When politics matters, people turn to Today, America's morning news leader.
I am dead unless you help me.
She was being stalked, and they couldn't help her.
We made a mistake.
Now, a murder could ruin 2 cops.
Are you lying now?
No. From the Emmy-winning Best Drama, The First